Great. Let's talk about it later if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get going on. Thank you so much. So thanks, folks, for coming to story time. I'm going to call it story time because I'm not sure how long we have up to an hour, and we don't have to feel forced to go more, less, whatever. So I just want to quickly go over a few housekeeping things, and then we're going to move into a video that folks have recorded for us. So we're going to keep folks on mute for right now, but when Carissa or Heather, when people get settled in, hi Robert, we may unmute you when we go to start sharing, so it can be a little bit more of a free flow and not a hands raised, but until we open it up, feel free to just raise your hand if we're missing something. And there's always the chat box, so you can open up the chat. It's a great place to pose questions or share things if you'd like. And basically the goal for today is, this session is to share our stories about why this place means so much to us. And we're gonna share the tribute, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Robert to share, and I'll introduce him in a minute, then we'll introduce Tony, and then we'll open it up for all of us. So I think, Carissa, do you wanna share the video? Hang with us, it's always the tech part, right?
Yep, it is. Sorry, guys.
You got it, it's all good.
There we go.
Hi, my name is Cami, and I work for the Eastern Sierra Land Trust as a financial manager. And I love everything about the Eastern Sierras. I love kayaking, I love horseback riding. But I think the most special place is Mono Lake. Every time I see Mono Lake in every season, I just think it's the most beautiful place ever.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie, and I adore the Eastern Sierra. When it's not a pandemic, I spend a lot of my year working seasonally and traveling all over the place for these different trips. And the Eastern Sierra is this place that I can come back to in between everything, that just always feels like a sort of a coming home, and I just always feel just very welcome in the landscape of the Eastern Sierra, which is a precious thing amongst so much movement in my life.
I love living in the Eastern Sierra. I love this region, and I love working for an organization whose mission is to protect private land in the Eastern Sierra.
Hey Robert, what's your favorite thing about the Eastern Sierra? I think for both of us it would be the unbeatable access to the great outdoors. If I had to pick a favorite spot, it would probably be the tableland.
What I love about the Eastern Sierra is it's a land of just unlimited possibilities. That's what I feel when I'm there. You can strike out on a hard hike up that steep escarpment to 12,000 feet or more, seeing mountain birds and wildflowers all along the way, each step bringing something new. Or you can just sit out on a porch and look across Mono Lake, that otherworldly vista that people come from all over the world to experience. Or you can perch in some hot springs above Bridgeport Valley and look across that ancient landscape and watch dudes from Honeywell Ranch riding along. I just love it.
Years ago, I moved out here from Maine, and I'd never been to Bishop, never been to the Eastern Sierra, so I had no idea what I was getting into, but it didn't take me long to realize just how truly special this place was. Specifically, it was the first night I got into Bishop. I was driving down the Sherwin grade with the sun setting behind Mount Tom and Bishop below, and at that point, I just kind of knew that wherever the next year or so would take me, it would be an incredible time. However, when anyone asks what my favorite part is about Bishop, it's an easy answer: the community. I love the people here, and as education coordinator, have gotten to interact and work with a lot of the community members and youth, and just everyone has been so special. So for me, it's truly the community here that makes this place special.
Eastern Sierra Land Trust is such a wonderful organization. Preserving land for future generations is just such a wonderful thing.
I really love these mountains and therefore appreciate that Eastern Sierra Land Trust exists, and it's gonna keep making sure that these mountains are thriving for ages to come.
I love that Eastern Sierra Land Trust work is in perpetuity. I love that Eastern Sierra Land Trust is a permanent organization in that way. Eastern Sierra Land Trust will always be here, has promised to always be here, stewarding the land that they're protecting forever. That's really, really powerful and really unique. And I find that fascinating. I find it hopeful. It fills me with hope. It means keeping our migration corridors open, and it means keeping this region thriving, filled with life forever.
Thank the Eastern Sierra Land Trust from the bottom of my heart for working so diligently to put together the partnerships it takes to make sure that this crown jewel of California is there forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully that was a little bit of a start. Oh, hi, Sarah. A bit of a start to help inspire us. Robert. Robert's on our board. He's chair of our Finance and Investment Committee. He's our treasurer, and he's also the manager of Eastern Sierra Community Banks in our region. So, Robert, I'm going to kick it off to you now. Oops, mute.
Thank you. Gotta remember to unmute, right? Anyway, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm not so much here as the treasurer on the board tonight. Instead, I'm actually here as the sponsor of the story time. One of the great things about being your local Eastern Sierra Community Bank is getting to be involved with the community and giving back to the community. So we get to sponsor this really great organization and event. And so anyway, my background tonight, this is a place you might recognize here in the Eastern Sierra. By the way, that's my dog, Walter. If you ever hear me talk about Walter, that's who I'm talking about. Anyway, but this is a photo of Lundy Canyon right before a big old snowstorm hit. And I wanted to start off tonight by kind of talking about why Lundy Canyon is so special to me. You know, my great-grandparents actually, those of you that are familiar with Lundy Canyon and the little store and the resort, my great-grandparents actually founded that several decades ago. And so I always got to grow up hearing about the stories and the old times and hearing about what it was like to live in Lee Vining and Bridgeport, you know, before the highways were fully developed and the mail delivery via snow sleds. And shortly after I joined Eastern Sierra Land Trust, one of the great opportunities that we had that came before us was to actually protect some lands in Lundy Canyon. And so when this came to the board, it was just a really, really unique and enriching opportunity for me, not only as a board member, but, you know, being here for multiple generations and my family being here for multiple generations, to have that opportunity to actually touch a piece of the land and preserve a piece of the land that isn't just beautiful and scenic, but actually kind of has this really heartfelt place for me as an individual and for my entire family. It was a unique opportunity to join forces with the Mono Lake Committee, the other land trust I was involved with it, the Wilderness Land Trust, I believe was the name of it, and to just see a community unite to take advantage of a unique opportunity to quickly dive in, purchase a piece of property that really could have been developed and ruined some of those fantastic views and some of the hiking trails, and just preserve it for perpetuity. And I love the Eastern Sierra. I love Mono Lake. I love that entire area. And it's just, to me, this was a very special spot and a great opportunity to be involved with the organization as a member, as a board member, as a community sponsor of the organization. It's a really unique mission that we all have the opportunity to give and be a part of. And all of us have that connection to the lands, and that's what this is all about, is saving those connections for future generations. We've seen that with COVID, with a huge onslaught of people coming from all over the place to get outdoors and enjoy the great outdoors. And we're here preserving it for them and for their kids that they're now taking out and saying, hey, check this out, or their grandkids or great grandkids. So that's a little bit of a story piece to kind of get this started. And I hope to hear from the rest of you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks also for sponsoring for tonight. Tony, would you like to share next?
Yeah, listening to those tributes a while ago, my mind was going back to 20 years ago when we began this organization. And I think probably only one of you on the call looks back that far, and that's Scott Burns, who was a county planning director at that time, and was instrumental, I think, in encouraging the founding board members to start this. But I think about how many people look at the land trust today or several years ago when they became aware of what we were doing and say, wow, there's an organization that's going. It wasn't always that way. We struggled. At times it seemed like we made existential decisions about whether we should do this or not. So it's quite something to be where we are today. And then this week, celebrating the Honeywell family conservation easement up in the Bridgeport Valley. So many have been involved in that. Many people know the ranch. Many people, like my wife and I, have enjoyed being guests at the ranch. And this family, the Honeywell family that goes back 7 generations, just such incredible people. I think we're going to show a video here momentarily where I speak a little bit about first time that I met Jan Honeywell, who was the matriarch at this point of the family, and her deceased husband, now late husband, Stan. But ever since then, it's just been one encounter with one member of that family after another. And I just wish for all of you that you have that opportunity to get to know this family up in the Bridgeport Valley. I think that's enough. If we're going to show that video, I will just shut up and let Carissa take over, or whoever does that magic.
I'm Tony Taylor, board member of the Land Trust. I wanted to come up to the Honeywell Ranch to record these comments for a number of reasons. Probably the most significant is that we are celebrating the completion of our conservation easement land protection project with the Honeywell family on this ranch this week during Lands and Legacy. 20 years ago, my wife and I were up here on the 4th of July. We were up at Twin Lakes, which is up above the ranch, for the annual 4th of July 10K run. And on the way back, we noticed a bunch of horseback riders, 50 or so, out in the middle of the meadow riding toward Bridgeport. We stopped up near Bridgeport. A car pulled in beside us, and Stan and Jan Honeywell got out of the car. And that's where we first got to know these wonderful people and a little bit about the Honeywell Ranch. We have had a number of experiences with the ranch over the years since then. Cheryl and I have brought our oldest daughter and her two daughters up here on 2 occasions for 3 or 4 days of wonderful time here at the ranch and horseback riding. And then just a month ago, we were here with our youngest daughter and her husband and their 2 young daughters, 10-year-old Hazel and 6-year-old Molly. So we've been here on those occasions and 1 or 2 others and have just come to love this place and this Honeywell family. Our theme of this annual gathering is lands and legacy, and this is the perfect place to celebrate both lands and legacy. The Honeywell Ranch is spectacularly beautiful here in the Bridgeport Valley with the mountains on 3 sides, the green pastures. I'm looking at 75 or 80 cattle grazing out here in the meadow. It's just an amazing place to come and ride, and it's such a blessing for the land trust and for the family, I think, to have completed this conservation easement. Legacy, though, is the other part, lands and legacy, and the Honeywell family is indeed an absolutely amazing legacy family. They have been in this valley for over 150 years. And even now, at this time, there are 3 generations of the Honeywell family working at the guest ranch and on the ranch, on the working ranch. There is yet another generation that's coming along, young children. So the number of generations is incredible, and it's just amazing to me that a family in this day and age manages to hold themselves together, support one another, work together, and have such a successful operation here in the valley. So I just want to celebrate this place, our lands, this legacy, and celebrate this week together with all of you. Cheryl, pan around over to the meadow. There's the meadow, part of the Honeywell Ranch, and the cattle that are out there grazing. You should come to this place if you haven't been here. Have a great Lands and Legacy celebration.
Well, with a little wind blowing on the microphone, that was a great day last Friday when Cheryl and I went up to the Honeywell Ranch to enjoy that place that we've been to so many times. I just a little explanation on that Scottish jig you saw me do a couple times. That was not anything planned, but the flies or mosquitoes, whatever they were, kept crawling up my legs. I hope you all have an opportunity to be at the Honeywell Ranch. I know we will create opportunities for that in the future and give you a chance to get to know some of these family members that we admire so much. Thanks for this opportunity, Kay.
Oh, thanks, Tony. So I think Heather put in, she posed some questions that we had posed for the tribute if folks wanted to do it. So if you'd like to, someone I think let's go off mute now, and then we can share stories, and just raise your hand to go next. And it's really just, if you want to share a special place, why you love the Eastern Sierra, or what landscape speaks to you, and anything like that. Would anyone like to go next? Well, if there's no takers yet, I'll go, but I was hoping someone else would go before me. All right, so the first time I came to the Eastern Sierra was on a bike ride. And I had been living in Berkeley, going to art school. And it was during when the Mono Lake Committee was, or not even the committee, but when the effort was really getting rolling. And there were all those articles in the San Francisco Chronicle, front page coverage, you know, award-winning articles, a whole series of them. And I kept saying to my then husband, oh, you know, let's go to this place. It's so weird. It's so crazy. And we never did. Eventually moved to Laguna Beach. And then I heard about a fundraiser for the Mono Lake Committee, where we went to the Department of Water and Power, dipped glass vials into the reflecting pool in front of DWP. They were glass vials then, because this was so long ago. I don't think plastic was quite at the same stage in safety. I don't know. We strapped glass vials, put corks in them, strapped them onto our road bikes, and then rode our road bikes from LA up to Mono Lake the last week of August. So as you can imagine, it might have been just a little hot during that week. And there we're riding up, you know, Mojave, 395, all the way up. And I'd never been to the east side before, never been. So as I'm riding my bike up, you know, the elevation is changing, and you can, when you're on your bike, you can feel that in your legs. Then I started seeing the habitat, the plants, everything around me started to change. We went from the city noise and craziness to then Palmdale wasn't that big of a town back then. And slowly started moving up and seeing the escarpment on the left side. And I often say that the east side on that road trip, on that bicycle trip, reached in and grabbed my heart and never let go. You can breathe it, you can smell it, you can feel it, you can see it. And this landscape literally does something to my insides. I just resonate on a level with this place that makes me a happier person, a better person. And I love living here. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work here. This place is magnificent, incredibly special. And that's why I'm here. Who's next?
I can share something. I was kind of hoping Marie might be here, but Marie talked in the tribute video, and she's our education coordinator, and that was the position I had when I first moved out here. But I had a very similar experience to her, which is that you accept this job working as an AmeriCorps member for the Land Trust, and you don't, unless you grew up in California, and even if you grew up in California, you don't really know what the East Side is like. So you accept a job, but you don't really know where you're headed. And the first thing you do is go to training somewhere other than Bishop. So I went to training, and as I was leaving training, I had this 4 or 5 hour drive back, and I hit the Sherwin grade. I actually hit the Sherwin grade just after sunset. So I went through Mono Lake during this incredible sunset, and it was pink and orange and phenomenal. And I was having a hard time paying attention to the road. And then I hit the Sherwin grade in the dark, and I saw these little twinkle lights, which is Bishop below. And I actually thought, oh no. And I thought, oh no, if this is Bishop, it's just going to be me and one cowboy at the bar, and that's it. You know, like there was just darkness around the small patch of light. And I grew up in Chicago, so it seemed quite small. Yeah, it's been 7 years. So it's been pretty awesome.
Reached in and grabbed you too, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I'll share a fun story I've told several times about why Kay is here at this time.
Uh-oh.
And that was that 6 years ago or so, we were replacing our executive director. And I had a chance to meet Kay up in Nevada briefly over coffee. She had expressed some interest in the position. But we were, it was a time when we were really needing the right person. There was a committee of 5 of us, one of whom was the current and executive director. And we'd interviewed 3 of the 5 people on a weekend. And Kay was number 4, came in, sat down for the interview. And it was amazing. For all of us in the room, it was amazing. And so we finished the interview. It was probably 45 minutes, an hour. Kay had expressed her passion for the Eastern Sierra. So she left, and my good friend Dan Dawson, who was the director of the Eastern Sierra Reserves at that time, was on the committee, and he looked at me and said, "I think our job is done, isn't it?" I said, "No, we've got one more person to interview." Okay. But it was just a given that Kay was the right person for the job. And every day, every week, every month since she came, the Land Trust has been the beneficiary of that decision that was so easy at that moment to make for what she has created and continuing our success. So that's why Kay is here right now.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. I didn't know you were going to say that. Should I cry now or I'll wait? I'm going to try to wait.
I think you should wait, Kay. I'll go now.
Okay.
And I think this is going to turn into a Kay tribute also.
No.
So I first moved out west from the East Coast as well, and my first introduction was to South Lake Tahoe. Beautiful, beautiful place. And there I had the opportunity to meet and actually work with Kay. Great experience. She ended up, moving down here. I ended up moving further south. And it wasn't until last year she reached out to me and brought me back up here. So for me, everywhere I look around here, all the beauty around here, all the beauty that surrounds me around her, around me, sorry, embodies Kay. So when I look out everywhere, I see Kay because she was my first introduction to the Eastern Sierra. And I think that's just a beautiful thing.
I had an interesting introduction. Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I was aware of the Eastern Sierra, but and definitely an outdoors person. But from 1982 to 92, I directed the Matarango Museum in Ridgecrest. And one of our projects was to tape interviews with old timers, and this included the 49ers, but early on, somewhere around 1982 or 83, I came up to Law's Museum with another historian from the Indian Wells Valley to interview Gus Cosball. And that was an incredible experience. Talking to a very well-educated, he was, I think, 99 at the time when we interviewed him. And all these stories about taking the train to go to college in Stanford and he was taking the narrow gauge. And when he got to Stanford, the 1906 earthquake had just hit. And so even though I had appreciated the beauty of the Eastern Sierra, I really didn't understand the families and the people who lived here and the people who respected the land and the generations of people who had been here from that interview. And subsequently, my friend Yvonne Katzenstein, who I noticed her iPad is on, but her parents her mother's was born here, and she is related to the Kashba family too by marriage. But I think all the people I've met through Yvonne of her ranching side of the family have this same idea of land and legacy. I mean, it's being a part of and working with the land. And so from when I first came up in the 80s, I thought, what a wonderful place. And then my husband, who worked at the Naval Weapons Center at the time in Ridgecrest, he retired, and we said, where are we going to go? And just kind of on a whim, because I'm a biologist and I was doing some work up near Bodie, and we stopped and stayed with my friend Denise Racine in Paradise and saw a house for sale with a view of Mount Tom, and that was it. So we bought our first house here in '91, and it's I've never looked back. It's an incredible place, the land and the people to live.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yvonne's iPad. Are you going to come on, Yvonne?
If I can you hear me?
We can hear you, we just can't see you.
Well, okay. So do I hit my little icon? Let's see. I don't have my face on here. Okay, to start your video. Okay.
There you are.
So you can see me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure exactly what you are covering and what people are saying, but yeah, it's pretty amazing to be back here with my family that has lived here for a long time. My mother was born at Laws. My Aunt Dorothy Cashbaugh was born at Laws. My Aunt Ina Chafee was born at Laws. So a lot of history at Laws. And then I actually was born at the airport back before the hospital was quite ready to be opened. But yes, so I've been back to the site where the buildings were that I was born in, but they're gone now out at the airport. But talking about Gus Cashbaugh, yes, it was my Uncle Gus, my great Uncle Gus, because it was my uncle Bud Cashbaugh, his uncle, and it was just amazing to be with him. And at his house, I definitely remembered as a little girl being around him and just hearing all the stories about him and how much he loved it here and how he would walk miles almost up to the day he died. Every day, go out and walk in the country here. But to have been with, I don't know, it's just so amazing to think of all the things that I've done here as far as being with different portions of the Cashbaugh Ranch and being with different portions of Laws, because actually one of the schoolhouses where my grandmother taught is out at Laws. So going out there and seeing that and going back and finding where the house was that my grandmother had in Laws, which is of course now gone. And just having heard as much as I did, sometimes it's hard to untangle it from kind of the weave of my history, because it's just been a part of me ever since I was born to be here. And sometimes I think back, being born, I was born in January on a very snowy day, and probably the first thing I saw, if ever much you can see when you're that little, were the Sierras. And it's just been in my my whole being, this place. And it's so great to hear all the different people reminiscing about it. But yeah, Gus Cashbaugh he was just an amazing person. Dearly loved him.
So Yvonne and I have gotten to know one another on multiple levels, and I phoned her up and said she has to be a part
I
of
know.
this discussion, because not only does she have the human history, but she went and got a doctorate at UC Riverside in geomorphology and understands the land, and was retired from UC with the Agriculture Extension Service. So she has a lot of understanding and has worked with a lot of people and nonprofits in this area. So it's, I know she was telling me about the art class she went to the other day. So I just thought she needed to be on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm just wondering, out of all of this, is there going to be a group that will carry forward, do you think, sort of looking at the history and gathering it here?
I say let's talk about that and see what we can come up with. Because it's something that a lot of our donors ask us. They want to know more about the history. I think that would be fantastic. Maybe we could poll and see if there's a group who'd like to do that. You can reach out afterwards. So
yeah, I actually sat down with my Aunt Dorothy and Uncle Bud probably about 7 years ago and wrote down what they could remember to tell me. It's about 3 pages typewritten, just of history. And but anyhow, so I was just looking at that the other day. I thought it would be good to kind of get that out, but yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that ranch is that like one of your favorite places in the Sierra?
Oh, wow. You know, it's in some ways it's hard to say what's my favorite place, because ranching and the ranch lands and being up in Mona County along Hot Creek and being out on Highway 6 at the ranch that the Cashpaws had at that time, it's just so much a part of me. And a lot of what sometimes stands out to me more too is, as Pat was saying, a degree in geomorphology and looking at the landscape. And I remember telling one of my second cousins, Maria Kemp, about going up north, up to North Lake and up in that area, and how you pass through all these amazing moraines left by the past glaciers that were there. And it was just, to me, interesting to hear her say, because it's part of being born here. She said, I had no idea that's what those were. I had no idea that that's what the landscape was telling me, was about these past ice advances coming down Bishop Creek area. So it's kind of hard to say what's the most, the ranching is at a foundation within me that's pretty deep. I don't know how to put that, but yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yvonne, where was the Cashpaw Ranch? Where is the Cashpaw Ranch?
Well, the Cashpaw Ranch is right now just about the largest acreage that there is here. But originally they had large holdings up near Hot Creek, and they still have some holdings there. But as the family broke up the holdings, a lot were sold off to some of the governmental agencies and other, and I think there was some even sold off to Mammoth. So the rangelands were up in Hot Creek. So those were the summer rangelands, but then the winter rangelands were always down here. And as far back as I know, then the original ranch, well, there was 2 places. So there was the ranch that was up along Highway 6, which was sold, which was where I would go as a little girl. And then there was also lands out by, I'm forgetting the name of the ponds, which I've never totally got out to look and see where the house was. So the house where my Uncle Bud was born was out on the ponds that are to the south of town, all the way kind of on to the east side. And one of my relatives has a painting done of that house as it stood when the Cashpaws used to have that. So how big the extension was then, I don't know. Now the ranching is primarily carried out under the name of Giacomini and Kemp. So So yeah, so the Giacomini's and they have a lot of leases that they also run their cattle on now, and going all the way down to the ears. So and then I've never totally explored what how the extension of ranching in this area is carried on when you look at the Giacomini's daughter Maria having married a Kemp down from the southern area, and that area of cattle ranching. But yeah.
Up on Coyote, was that always leased land, or was that ever owned by the family?
Pat, I know they must have, I don't know for positive. I know that Rob Pierce's family has a few portions left. Where the land to the south by Warm Springs is, that was originally Pierce Holdings. So I don't know for sure, but I do know that was either Pierce, but my Uncle Bud would talk about driving cattle up there to Coyote and then bringing them back down. And it was, he said the cattle were pretty interesting because when they first started off, they had to kind of keep them going. But once they got up there, the ones that had been there before, they would just really charge ahead because they knew there was wonderful grasses there. But the new ones just starting out, they had to really keep an eye on so they didn't turn back and come back down because it was a pretty steep climb for the horses and the cattle.
And for a car.
And for a car, yes, that's exactly right. That's exact. And so there is still part of, I haven't been over in a few years, but part of the original corral where they would hold the cattle before they moved them up into Coyote. So when you go out there and you park along just where the trailhead starts, there's parts of an old corral there, and that was their corral that they would move them to. And so they used to always do move them by horse and cattle, pushing them through the land from up at Hot Creek all the way down. And so I do remember writing down some of the stops that they would make, but that corral there was the first one they usually would start to when they were coming out of the Warm Springs area to move to. So, but yeah, I always was hoping they would do another cattle drive. They've talked about it sometimes, but I always thought it would be amazing to see that. But they generally move them by truck. But yeah.
In our Keep Long Valley Green campaign, that's quite a large collaboration. I got to know, and I'm getting to know more, Maria and Matt. They're just, they're wonderful. We worked with them on the Louis Sahagan article in the LA Times, a couple of years ago. They're just remarkable, remarkable people. Love them dearly.
And if there's any way to work their firstborn Will into it, he is an amazing person, very serious. And it would be good for him to learn the history and help with presenting it too. But all three of their children are amazing. But
Great.
Yeah, they're great people. Yeah.
Anyone else want to share about why they love the Eastern Sierra or a special place? I love hearing all these stories.
This is John.
Hi, John.
Most of you don't know me, so I hope I get to meet you guys at some point in person. I'll do a small introduction in a minute, but I grew up at the foothills of the San Bernardino Mountains near Redlands, California, and spent every single summer at June Lake. And spending the time exploring near June Lake and Mammoth Lakes and the whole area, growing up and fishing and geeking out about geology really kind of tailored my my love for environmental conservation in the Eastern Sierra. I grew up in the 90s, but right before technology could have spoiled my brain. Even though I'm a tech nerd, but just from my experiences from growing up, being surrounded by a place like the Eastern Sierra in the summertime has really made me to really feel how important it is to get all of our young generations into these wild spaces, that hopefully they get inspired as well. So I ended up in the conservation field. And so I work for the Wildlands Conservancy, and we're the largest nonprofit nature preserve system in California. We're 25 years old now. And back in November, I was named our Eastern Sierra Nevada Regional Director. So now a lot of my time is going to be spent on all of our projects in Mono and Inyo County. So all of your stories and sharing has been very inspiring. And that's the main reason why I'm here for this week, is just to get to know the Eastern Sierra Land Trust, to get all of you and everyone else who's just so passionate about the Eastern Sierras, because my work is now focused mostly in Mono County at the moment. But I mean, we had 2 nature preserves that are small. I mean, we only own 430 acres total now in Mono, which is small compared to other parts of the state. But we have a property that borders 2 of your guys' easements now in Bridgeport, the Big Hot Springs Ranch and then the Point Ranch to the south. We kind of have land right in the middle of it. So we hope to work with all of you in the future to do a lot of conservation stuff, and we hope to continue to inspire a lot. But anyway, yeah, I think it's an amazing place, and our opportunity to share it with the world and get more people out and protecting it for forever is I think really good. So I think you guys are doing fantastic work, and I hope to meet some of you guys in person, and maybe even invite you to, I know you guys are still working in Bridgeport, so if you guys need a place to meet, our brand new Bodie Hills Preserve is what it's called. We do have meeting space that you guys can use down the road when, you know, when COVID passes and we can go back to normal. But anyway, I hope to meet some of you guys in person. You guys are all inspiring, so thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks. Thank you. So there's a few faces we haven't heard from and a few phone. I can't see faces, but I can see names. And I just want to, obviously not trying to put anyone on the spot, but want to make sure we create space and time if you would, if you came here wanting to share. So I'll just let it quiet for a minute. Mackenzie, did you want to say something again?
Yeah, I'll say something really quick. Just you, John, sharing about like kind of how meaningful it is to like get you specified younger generations into this landscape makes me feel like called to share about not necessarily my introduction to the Eastern Sierra, but kind of like witnessing people seeing it for the first time. I work for a bunch of different outdoor ed organizations, but one of the ones that I work for, every year we do a trip in August where we take girls ages 16 to 18 up to like the Cottonwood Lakes Basin up outside of Horseshoe Meadow, and like, yeah, you know, do some various hikes around there, and we do a summit attempt of Langley. And only one of the years that I have done that trip, we've actually made it to the summit. And just every year though, like seeing these adolescent girls like experiencing this place for the first time is really, really incredible. Like some of them have like never been out of LA or like never been out of Oakland, and to like see that like this exists in the state that you live in, and to like just witness like a teenager falling in love with this landscape is really powerful. And yeah, you know, just like one memory that really stands out to me is that one trip where we did get to Summit Langley, like the snow cooperated and the, you know, students like were able to do it physically, and just like how beautifully they encouraged each other, and to like see these young people, you know, standing on top of a mountain and feeling so capable and just so inspired by this landscape. It's like, yeah, like that's inspiring. That inspired me a lot. And so it's cool to, I don't know, be able to like share it with, I mean, shoot, I'm even pretty young, but like with like the young youth, it's just cool. It's like that's where like this landscape is really going to be preserved for forevermore, is by like, you know, getting them to fall in love with it too. And so that just, I don't know, resonated with me, John.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Janet, are you thinking?
Yeah, I am. I'm not particularly good at telling stories or public speaking, but if you can bear with me. I also suffer from K-itis. I tear up at the drop of a hat, so.
I've never heard it said that, but I'm going to embrace it. Got it.
My first experience in the Eastern Sierras was in 1970 when I was a sophomore in high school. I joined the Capitargo Club, which was a hiking group and camping group run by a courageous man by the name of Al Lillyberg, who was a chemistry teacher at Napa. And every spring break, he would pile 5 or 6 of us into a 1964 blue and white Volkswagen bus with a latrine and all of our backpacks strapped on top and water jugs and whatever else, shovels, everything that he needed to take us into the desert. He loved the desert. He loved geology. And the first trip I took with him was to the Eastern Sierras, and specifically to Mono Lake, where I got to swim in a very salty pond. And we would always camp at a place we named the Cubby Hole behind the Green Gate at Hot Creek. If you're familiar with Hot Creek and you go in, there's a green gate off to the side that's always closed. Well, that we would go behind there, and there was a little place down the road a bit where we would pull off, and that would be our camping spot. He taught us all how to no campgrounds, never. It was all primitive camping, and he taught us how to do that. He taught us how to do it with Leave No Trace, before there was Leave No Trace. Courageous in that, oh my gosh, back then there were no seatbelts. You know, we just all piled in and off we'd go, and we'd be 5 days out there. That was my introduction to the Eastern Sierras, and I fell in love with the desert, especially high altitude desert and the mountains. And 4 years ago, I got to make a dream come true and come live here permanently. And I was so delighted to find that there was this land trust here, because I had volunteered with the land trust in Napa, where I lived for 45 years. So just serendipity, everything was perfect. But I'll never forget my first view of the Eastern Sierras. You're just gobsmacked. When you turn around, there's the mountains right in your face.
Oh, thank you, Janet.
I made it through without crying.
You did, and it was beautiful. You got us crying though, so thank you.
It is awesome, and you're right about that view. You know, I moved away for a few years, and I remember my first time coming back and driving through Bridgeport and seeing the Bridgeport Valley and those incredible views there, and then just going further south, you know, as you come into Mammoth, and you know, the views drop in Sherwin-Gray coming into Bishop, and you know, in between and Round Valley and all that. It's just absolutely stunning. You know, growing up here, I could never understand why people that always came here talked about the mountains and couldn't shut up about them. Sorry, but you know, they were just talk about how big and beautiful these mountains are, and I'm like, they're mountains, you know. It's not until you go and experience other places and you come back and you see these all over again for the first time that I think you can truly understand how majestic they really, really are, especially when you grow up here, you know, or go on a long trip and come back, and they really are spectacular. And we got some of the best lighting in the entire world for photographers, for campers, for people that just want to experience the outdoors. And so, you know, I really appreciate you sharing, because it's so true. You know, it's that the views are just incredible. You know, that first sight is just, you know, and a few people have hit on it. It's unforgettable. You know, it's a great experience.
Yeah. So I'm not putting pressure on anyone. I just want to make sure if you wish to say something, you have the opportunity, because we can't see your faces. So I see Scott is with us, and Lorraine is with us, and an iPad 2 is with us. Would any of the three of you like to share anything? And of course, no pressure, just wanting to make sure there's space for you if you'd like.
All right, sounds like that's our cue.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for sharing your stories today. It's just amazing all the different ways we've all come to love this place and how we feel so connected to it. And that's a reason why, of course, all of us in our different ways are working so hard to protect this place. And I just want to thank you for being a part of it. And of course, I want to thank Robert for helping sponsor or for sponsoring this event for us. If you don't know, the Bink is awesome. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, but I just want to thank you, Robert, and for all the support you. For those of you who have been on other calls, we, ESLT, decided to get to apply for a Paycheck Protection Program grant, which helped us during COVID. And Robert is our banker, and he helped us so much. And with his guidance and support and giving us the correct checklist, we were funded in the first round. So that's pretty unusual for a small little nonprofit like us. We wouldn't have been able to do it without his help. So thank you. Here is a slide of, you can contact him. And then I just want to invite you to, we've got some other events coming up in the next couple days. Here's some other sponsors. Again, Tony, thank you so much for you and Cheryl. And here's our schedule. So tomorrow we've got a talk with about wildlife and ESLT's work on wildlife protection here on the East Side. And for those of you who had the chance to read Kendra Knightley-Work's book, Miracle Country, it's astounding. And she's going to be talking about her connection to place. And she talks about the healing after her mother passed and how the landscape of place helped her heal. So it's an amazing book. I recommend it. And then Wednesday, we're having a little chat with more about history of Bill Bramlett out at Benton. And Thursday, finishing up our Bio Blitz, and then the paddle raise on Thursday night. I hope you all join us. We haven't done the paddle raise virtually before. It's going to be a fun experiment, and come and hang out with us and let's see what happens. And of course, if you guys have any questions, please just send an email or give us a call. Carissa picks up phone calls, you know, multiple times during the day, and someone's there at least probably every third day. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
See y'all later. Bye.
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 Bye.